Welcome everyone to another BitShares Open Agenda Hangout on the Beyond Bitcoin Network. Today is BitShares Hangout number 82, and today is Saturday, August 4th, 2014. I am at Official Fuzzy, and I am going to be moderating this open agenda discussion, which anybody can participate in during the fact, after the fact, or can RSVP and actually join live and become a participant. I urge everybody to make sure that we have at least 12 hours notice before people RSVP. And the reason is so the team who works with us can put the slides together for your topic or your project. But with that said, we do these every week and have done them since the beginning of BitShares to form an open source kind of model for people to lead communities and run operations within a community in a transparent manner, and to open up the opportunity for those who want to step up and do something to be able to be noticed for what they're doing without having to necessarily pay out of pocket to do so. We feel like you're already doing something good or paying attention to something important, so why should you have to pay for us to talk about it like the rest of crypto? So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and for the beginning of it is going to, of course, cover the at Steam Power's BitShares State of the Network report excerpt. I urge everybody to check out the full BitShares State of the Network report that is posted nearly weekly on the at Steam Power blog on steemit.com and soon on whaleshares.net. And then after that, we're going to open up for Fox, who's going to bring some core updates for us. And then we're going to open it up for some topics that Talkinator has brought on for today. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with the Steam Power BitShares State of the Network report. BitShares, along with EOS, Steem, and other assets have been mentioned for consideration for the Coinbase custodial service in the latest blog post from Coinbase. That's a huge piece of information. A new worker has been proposed by Rossel, a Graphene Lab team, for a comprehensive BitShares UX/UI redesign. Graphene Lab is a team of experienced blockchain developers specializing in graphene-based chains, and Rossel is ranked #1 UI/UX design agency in Canada. We had them on last week actually discussing this. So if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and listen to the last week's. Up next is the BitShares decentralized exchange community is now funding a bug bounty program with critical vulnerability rewards capping out at a cool 25k BitUSD. So go ahead and hack the DEX and maybe earn some BitUSD for it. After that, the BitShares core asset BTS was added to the list of tradable assets on the Lick exchange and can be traded against BTC and USD pairs. Up next is Bill Butler has posted a renewed worker proposal for the BitShares GUI worker, which has been running since 2017. You can find the updated renewed proposal on the BitShares Blockchain Foundation website. And finally, for the day on this excerpt, BitShares Network has 593 kilograms of silver collateralized on the blockchain. So with those things said, of course, you can always go find the full BitShares State of the Network report at Steam Power on steemit.com or on BitsharesTalk Talk or whaleshares.net in the future. Of course, if you please make sure to share his content, reward him with upvotes if you've got some stake in that network, and just share in general everything that they're doing if you think that something that they're doing is important for our space and something that's important that you appreciate. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and open up for our speaker today, who's going to be Fox from the BitShares core team. And he's going to be producing some updates on the BitShares core worker. So let's go ahead and step back, and I'll let you step up, Fox, and then we can open it up for any community questions after you're up.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, Fuzzy. Always good to be here with you in the community. I'm Ryan R. Fox. I'm the coordinator for the BitShares core team, and we work on the protocol, developing the CLI wallet, updating the protocol, and all the APIs, making everything work in the background, right? All right, so I just wanted to give an update about where we're at on the core team, what we're working on, and what we've got planned in the future. So just yesterday, we had tagged a new release to the testnet, okay? This is only for the testnet. Nothing has changed in the mainnet yet. So I have some preliminary release notes that you guys can go and check out. And I just threw these together this morning, mostly so that I can get API operators and active block producers in the know about all the stuff that's in this code, in this release. If you want to go and check it out, you can certainly do that at our GitHub repo. So that is github.com/bitshares/bitshares-core, and then /tags, and then the one up at the top will be the release for the tag for the testnet. The other way that you can do it, if you're a Git user, you can just go get checkout testnet, and then that will run this new code. All right, so this is a feature release. That means that's not mandatory. You don't have to take this one if you don't want to, but it's recommended. And I think that those who are definitely going to want to do it are going to be the validation nodes and those running API servers, because we've got a lot of enhancements that help those two. Again, this is only in the testnet, and what we are expecting to do with feature releases is we test them for at least 2 weeks. So we're going to run this test through Tuesday, 21st August. And then thereafter, we're going to take a couple of days in the core team, and then we will build the release for the mainnet and then put that out. We'll probably put that out on Thursday, 23rd August. Again, that will not be a mandatory upgrade. You won't have to do that, but I think if you are running an active validation node, that you're probably going to want to do it. So let me tell you a little bit about what's in this release. All right, we've got one really interesting security enhancement here within the command line wallet. So we've always had blinded transfers within the command line wallet only, but what we're adding here are range proofs for these. So this is helping us with some of the privacy preserving features that are in there. So take a look at that when that comes out. That's pretty cool. Also, we have added support for Ubuntu 18.04. We also then increased our range of support for the Boost library. So now that goes from 1.57 all the way through 1.65.1. And we also now support OpenSSL 1.1. So out of the box, if you are running Ubuntu's latest version, it will just build using apt-get, which is nice. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the other usability features that are in here in this release. So on the API side, we've made lots and lots of enhancements there. We've got a whole bunch of new getters and also some improved formatting for the data that is getting returned from these APIs, and also much better performance just in getting the data, assembling it, and then being able to make it available through that API. So neat things there. You'll start to see some of these then be, because we now expose these API endpoints, then you'll be able to see them by the UI team being able to put them into their user interface in future releases. You'll actually see some of the stuff happening that we've done on the protocol side. All right, we've made also many performance improvements for validation nodes. So we really have focused on speeding up the ability of the block production of the block production, or at least the validation of the blocks. We're not changing our block interval or anything like that, but just how efficient we are in creating the blocks themselves. And probably more importantly, for if you're running a validation node, is we've really made a lot of improvements on the time it takes to resync and to replay that blockchain, because the data is large, and it was taking many hours just to replay the blockchain. So we've cut that down significantly. Another group of enhancements are with the Elasticsearch plugin. So here, Alfredo has spent a lot of time making improvements to that. To that plugin. There's one important thing to note on this. If you have been using the Elasticsearch plugin in the past, with this release, the database format changes. So you'll have to replay the entire blockchain, and it'll make it'll make a new data structure for you inside of Elasticsearch. But that's great, because that helps us reduce our memory requirements for the validation nodes, and then user interface teams can take that data and use that to build even more dynamic outputs from. So exciting there. And then we've got quite a number of bug fixes and many updates to our testing suite. So that really helps with our build process, and then also for new developers coming in to support us and help us from the community, knowing that we have a test suite there for them that they can use. We've made a lot of improvements to its performance, and then also just what it covers, what type of test coverage we have there as well. So that's what's in this feature release that just came out yesterday. Again, it'll be in the testnet for just over 2 weeks. We encourage everybody who is an active witness to take this and get it installed on their testnet node, and then we'll be doing the testing within the testnet there. All right, let me move on and talk a little bit about a couple of BitShares improvement proposals that we've got actively being discussed in the BSIPs area. So if you go to our GitHub organization, so github.com/BitShares, then you can go to /BSIPs, BSIPS, and that's where we talk about all of our improvement proposals there. So the first one that I wanted to talk to you about is one that's been getting a lot of discussion in the last couple of weeks. It's called custom active permissions. And what this one is all about is it's really a security improvement that's going to allow users to have distinct keys per operation. So as you know, right now we have the concept of an owner key and an active key, and you are encouraged to use only your active key for signing transactions, right? Doing what you do typically, right? And you only use your owner key if you want to update your active key, right? Well, and that active key can basically do anything that you want it to do, but we're looking for a way to increase security by allowing new keys to be created that would then be tied to specific types of operations. So the idea here would be that if you have like a transfer, if you want to run the transfer operation, you could have a key or a set of keys that would be used just to do that. So that if you didn't have that particular key, you wouldn't be able to do that particular operation. So this would be net new. It won't change anything in the way that it works today. It'll just add more features going forward. It would also probably provide the ability to implement a two-factor authentication scheme as well. Lots of neat things. If you read the Open Ledger Worker proposal a couple of weeks back, it talked about kind of what they wanted, and this BSIP actually covers almost everything that they wanted in there, and they have now been talking with this and participating in the discussion, and I think that they're probably going to participate even further, and hopefully we'll get this one implemented in the very near future, because it'd be very valuable for our community to have this stuff. All right, so that's a very interesting one to talk about. The next one is escrow services, and this is one that that our own Talkinator here has been drafting, and based on some work that Alfredo Garcia has already done. And again, I think I've talked about this one in the past, but we're definitely looking for more commentary on this one and get this one move forward, because this would allow for the transfer of assets using an intermediary, using an escrow service, and doing that through the blockchain. So that one's pretty exciting as well. The last one that I want to highlight here this week is Stealth Phase 2. All right, so this is really building on confidential transfers that we've built into the core already. And remember, I talked about that one release enhancement there for the CLI wallet and the range proofs. So same author here, Christopher Sanborn, is drafting this one up right now. And what this is going to do is create some new operations that are going to be able to support confidential assets and other privacy preserving features. So this would really move forward what's already in there, kind of build upon what the vision of confidential transfers were originally, and kind of finish that off. I think it will be great, at least to do the research at this point, to get it documented, to get it out there in front of the community for them to evaluate. Is this truly what BitShares wants to implement? So participate in that one as well, as that one moves forward as an improvement proposal. So those are the ones that I want to highlight right now. That's really all I've got this week from the core team. I will put a plug in for BitFest coming up. And that's coming up at the end of September in Amsterdam. So September 21st and 22nd. And actually now been extended to Sunday the 23rd as well. I'll be there. I'm hosting a panel, as well as I've got a slot to give a presentation. So I'll probably be talking about kind of what the future of BitShares looks like, and what our roadmap is on the core team. So I hope to see you there. You'll see many of the core team members there, get a chance to meet us and listen to them on stage as well. So again, bitfest.in is the website that you can go to and get your tickets. So hope to see you all there. That's all I've got for you guys. Thanks again.
Well, thank you, as always, Fox, for providing transparent updates on what you guys are doing. And for those of you who are not familiar with Fox, they've been working with the core worker proposals for quite some time now, and have done a great job. You can go actually check all the money that they've spent, all the things they've done, directly at the links provided. So thank you very much, Fox, and I make it clear that everybody who joins up every week, or everybody who listens to these, rather, that anybody can join up every week and provide updates like this. So if there are people in the BitShares ecosystem who are not, and you think that they should be, and they should be actually getting more well known, let them know it's here for them. They're there so they don't have money. They don't have to do any of the other things to get coverage for what they're doing. All you have to do is simply RSVP to a thread and join at the allotted time. And that's really it. And you get paid, you get rewarded, rather, with tokens for it. So we offer this as an instance for that, but we also offer this as an instance for those of you who are here to ask questions. So if anybody has any questions or comments that they'd like to bring up to Fox at this time, please, right now would be the time to do it. PowerPix is asking a question, Fox. What is your thought on the UX UI proposal by Graphene Lab and partners that was presented last week?
Sure, PowerPix. It's a good question. You know, I'm on the back end side, right? So I'm not so in the know on the UI UX stuff that's out there, and probably not the best person to evaluate them. But I have seen a number of different user experience proposals coming through, and I think that's fantastic for our community to see that various entities see the value of the BitShares platform and want to build new user interfaces to expose that to, so that we can make it easier for end users to pick it up and make use of it. So, you know what, in general, I support anybody who wants to use our platform and improve upon it. So I won't comment specifically on kind of the value proposition of each of those, but in general, what I look for in worker proposals is that team that's assembled capable of doing it, and do I feel confident that they would be able to deliver more value to the BitShares ecosystem than what they are requesting in BTS tokens to do so. Thanks.
Yeah, if I can piggyback on it, I'll simply say that my take on it is anybody who's a firm who does this in the real world for big companies and is considered one of the #1 agencies for these types of things, I think it's worth us looking at them and making sure we give them a couple good opportunities, even if it is shut down at first. I think something that's really important. The first thing that people see when they join is the user interface, right? So when you download that wallet, the first experience that you have is going to paint everything. We can't have anything more important, really. And obviously the back end and the front end need to work together to make that happen. So I'm appreciative for Fox and the team who's working on those things. But I also think that I personally think that we should be looking at things like this, because I don't know how many times we'll get top firms asking if we want to do something like that. It's just my opinion, something to take or leave, but it is my opinion. With that said, does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring regarding this, or regarding anything else Fox said? Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, Fox. And of course, if anybody wants to reach out to you, how they do.
Of course, if you want to get a hold of me, you can always do it in Telegram. I am Ryan R. Fox on Telegram. I'm Fox on the BitShares Talk Forums, and you can reach me by email. I'm fox@bitshares.boston.
Cool. Thank you very much for joining up, and thank you to everybody who makes these possible. These are run by all of us making this happen, so it's very important to thank all. And those of you who did post something this week, of course, I will reward you for it with upvotes and stuff, and also some of our tokens whenever we pass those out. So with that said, up next is going to be some topics that were brought to us by Talkinator. Talkinator, are you wanting to discuss them, or are you wanting me to discuss them, bring them up? And yes, IntelliGuy, Fox is always nice and detailed.
Fuzzy, I think Talkinator's mic was working. He was having some issues before we got started here today. So if you want to go through them, all the better.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, the first one that Talkinator brought up, I think we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but he said there's a full recap here. So a full recap of Farmer D in Canada buying beer for Guan at Love and Wayhay in under 3 seconds. So he says here, why does BitShares fascinate me? And although I still don't exactly know, this gets closest to an answer. It's not that BitShares makes the world smaller with 3-second transactions, but I think it's more that BitShares shows us that the world is smaller than we think, and we are all much closer than we think. At the risk of getting too philosophical, there are no borders in BitShares. The BitShares blockchain covers the world without prejudice. And then he says here, it's like buying a beer for a friend across the bar or the world. Thank you, BitShares. You continue to amaze me. And this was in response to Farmer D getting somebody a beer with BitShares, and just how fast it occurs, how we're now reaching a point where we can buy beers with BitShares. It's a pretty big deal, right? Even just little things like that that's how Bitcoin started. You would first start seeing people buy each other a beer or a cookie from one another and other services. And that's how Bitcoin started to spread, because people started offering these basic services for Bitcoin instead of their fiat currencies. And once that started happening, it started telling people, hey, people will accept this for their work, which means a lot to people, right? Especially given that that is pretty much what currencies are for. Kind of tells people without having to tell them, hey, Bitcoin can be used, cryptocurrencies can be used as a currency. BitShares can be used as a currency. But I think it would be very interesting to me whenever we start people buying them with BitUSD and BitCNY and things like that. I think that will be the biggest smile on my face. But this is a heck of a step in the right direction. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say about this topic that Taco brought up? Oh, Guan told me that there are now 35 stores who have joined this program and are accepting BitCNY. Oh, that's really cool. That's a great addition, Armor D. Is there anything you'd like to say about it? Would you like to open up your mic, or do you want to just stay back and we can talk about it? It's very interesting.
This is Cryptic. I'd like to jump in here and say, yeah, it is exciting. Part of the reason why we put the mobile proposal a few weeks ago, because we really believe that taking BitShares to the phone and to a point of use where it's much easier to use at a retail standpoint has just an astronomically huge potential for real life usage in the BitShares ecosystem.
Now, add on, I'm just thrilled that they're using the BitCNY. They're using one of our stable coins there, one of our smart coins, because that's the currency that's in that locale, right? They all know CNY, right? And so they're using that on top of our platform in order to exchange that value for that consumer product. I think that's probably the best story that's happening there. I'm excited.
So it is indeed the BitCNY that was spent, not BTS at all. That's a big deal. Just like Fox said, it's one of the things that no other cryptos really can offer that, other than maybe like Tether or something like Tether, which obviously is the best choice, right?
And we're seeing huge adoption of the BitCNY in the Chinese market right now. That one is doing upwards of $8 million a day in liquidity. So it's holding its peg much better than what the BitUSD has done historically, and it's really proving out what stable coins are supposed to be. So, if you're not following what's going on with BitCNY, check it out. It's the real deal.
It's worth it. And it's showing, I think, most importantly, which is my message every week, is we should show people as opposed to telling them how awesome BitShares is. And this is a good example of doing precisely that, I think. I mean, the act itself, the fact that it happens, speaks thousands of words, right? All right, guys. Well, anybody else have anything else? Chunky Fucky says there could be great synergy with the mobile app being used. I agree. They're talking to Cryptic. Let's let you guys bring that up to Cryptic here.
Yeah, so this is Cryptic. There could be some synergies. I mean, our proposal is also focused on, having the contest and getting the other creative users. And so we're really focused on bringing more people into the ecosystem that way. But yes, there is some definite overlap there. But with all projects, you have a lot of overlap on it, but we haven't had specific conversations with them on overlapping it.
Are we talking overlapping in terms of like ways of working together, or overlapping in terms of no need to work together because one or the other is going to end up
I think it was in ways of working together. Was the context of what the discussion was.
Gotcha. Well, I think that it's important that we recognize, like you said, Cryptic, the market is huge, and I see mobile phones quickly replaced wallets. I don't see many people carrying around wallets anymore. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but mobile phones are the future in a lot of ways for this stuff. So I don't see any way that we get around going mobile if we want, and if we want to compete in a market where other people are going to recognize this fact as well. We do not live in a bubble, right? So,
right, and in innovation, a lot of times you invent something 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 times in order to finally find the combination and the perfect, winner. So I think it's very important that we as an organization can bring independent proposals together, get them funded, and get them out there. I mean, yes, we're BitShares. We have several $100 million in the reserve fund, but we're also competing against EOS, which just raised $4 billion. There's a sense in how in the world is BitShares supposed to compete against EOS or some of these other blockchains that have raised more money if, they have so much more money than we have. Well, also there's a question of how effectively are we using the money that we have and the worker proposals. I hate to, try to get involved in a fight between one worker proposal or another worker proposal, but we have to look at how many developers are we actually employing? How many people do we have? I mean, you can take an organization and say, okay, all the value of a company is its people. Its people are its most valuable thing. Say, okay, how many people do we have? How many developers do we have? Now, people also say the same thing. Well, you can look at an organization and say its customers are its most valuable thing. Count the number of customers. Or you could say its length of its blockchain or the number of services that it provides. But we need to be very sure that we're effectively utilizing our resources and that we're supporting independent proposals like this that can come out. There's no reason that BitShares can't have 2 or 3 different portals into the website. I mean, we already have that with different, looks, and then we just go with the best one. It may take 3 or 4 times to find the perfect user interface or experience for it. And there can be more than one user interface for more than one type of user. This is very common in businesses. You have a front end and a back end. So I just think we need to be very sure that we're funding all of these proposals. And it's a little hard putting forward an independent proposal when you may not be getting the votes and you're waiting and you've got a team that wants to go at it. So we need to support these independent proposals.
Well, I will say one thing. I don't have everything, and I know that a lot of the worker proposals that are funded, are not necessarily funded. The community wants an opportunity to see some work done. I personally don't mind using my Beyond Bits to help support some of that stuff if people want to not only use that, so maybe get some recognition and some visibility on Steam by making maybe some posts about what they're doing and using the Beyond Bits to upvote it. I'm not saying that's what you guys need to do, but if there's anybody who's having problem getting a worker and they really care about what they're doing, and they really think that if given a chance to show what they want to do, that they can kind of help the BitShares community, I don't mind taking some of that risk. That's actually what those tokens were made for, was so I didn't have to politically get around things to get things done. So if there's people who are interested in that, I do want to let people know that is an opportunity, especially as whale shares opens up. There's going to be a lot more opportunities for there too. I'm personally going to be buying into whale shares, so I will be a big stakeholder, and I will actually be making tokens there as well. So, and I have a team who will be interested in doing those things. So I think that there's some value that we can bring that might be able to help with some of these things, even if a worker isn't put in play. But obviously, I'm not trying to tell you guys not to continue with the worker, but just another tool in your toolbox, perhaps, to get that worker. Sorry. New key permissions. When do we start posting to whale shares for topic suggestion for Hangout, Official Fuzzy? Once we open up the ability to create accounts and claim your whale shares, if you're holding BitShares, you'll be able to do it then. But it's not quite yet. Probably a couple weeks. I would say if you have an account or you don't have whale share tokens that you're going to be holding, then you're probably going to need to get the tokens to get an account. That might be kind of expensive in the first couple weeks to some people. If you've bought an LTM in BitShares, it probably isn't. But it still would be costing something if you're not already going to have an account. But I want to take that into account too. But whale shares I will announce whenever we start moving over there to use as the hub for all of this. Thanks for the question, Taco. Fawn Solo is asking, does this mean that BitShares 3.0 that Dan mentioned is a no-go or is an addiction? I think that BitShares, that Stan is actually wanting to create an EOS chain for BitShares and share drop on BitShares for it. So to answer that question, I would say that I don't think it has any bearing on BitShares 3.0. I'm pretty sure that Bytemaster has signed some has signed on to some other things as far as the EOS and Block One ecosystem. I would not expect BitShares 3.0, which I think that they're calling EOS shares or something like that. I think I don't think that's going to have any bearing on BitShares. Actually, I still think BitShares is very solid because it's not going to be connected to that ecosystem like directly in terms of the politics. So I think that BitShares offers a lot of great value proposition outside of EOS. So I'm not too concerned. But to answer your question, I think Stan on a smart contract platform for BitShares. That's at least what he's applied or at least expressed interest to me for whenever we've talked. Okay, now with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, which is follow up to the work proposal presentation, comprehensive BitShares UI UX update by Russell and the Graphene team, lab team. I think that this really goes in line with what Cryptic and I were talking about kind of naturally after we discussing the transcontinental beer in under 3 seconds, which it makes sense that this would be where we would go next because all this stuff is mobile. All these things are being done. They're not being done from a desktop at home, right? At least to my knowledge, she didn't pay for his desktop at home. So these are the things that I think are very important to recognize, that the majority of people do not have a desktop anymore, but they do have a phone. Many households don't even have a desktop anymore. So mobile computing devices are the future. I'm not saying that desktop isn't important, obviously, just like servers I can't say are not important. But what we can say is that it's a fact that everything's going mobile. And I think that's a very important thing to bring up regarding the and the Cryptic proposals, because both of them are very, very much interested in hitting that segment of the market and that opportunity, which I think is I don't want to call it low hanging fruit because obviously it takes time and resources to build, but in terms of something that's obvious, that we don't really need to ask too many questions if we're right about, I think that's low hanging fruit. So what do you guys think on this as far as the Rossel and Graphene Lab team updates or the worker proposal? Rather? Well, PowerPix, the crazy thing is a lot of laptops anymore are closer and closer to tablets if you've looked at them. I mean, mine is even a lot closer to a tablet. So it's like mobile in and of itself, right? Yeah, both are very valuable proposals, and I think that they're both hitting it from a different angle. I don't know which one is the best, because there's obviously things that I can see as a benefit to both of them. One, in the Rossel one, I believe that, obviously if you hire somebody who this is what they do for a living, I think it's like that's the best way to get a foundation formed. And then I personally think that something like competitions after that, once you have that solid foundation to build on, it's almost like, yeah, we built a house together. We hired some people to build a very solid foundations for a bunch of people to compete to build houses on. And all of the foundations are solid. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I see it. I see a lot of crossover, but I don't see either worker proposal being like competitors, if that makes sense. Just simply because they kind of hit. There are plenty of reserves to fund them both and give us options, or do we have to focus on choosing one? It's a good question, guys. Does anybody know at present how much is available in the reserve pool? I know a while ago it was over 50% of the BitShares, but I've heard since then that we've actually been spending more than we're making, and I don't know how much that's dented our pool or not, but obviously we want to get a return on investment, meaning if we can fund something for 100,000 BTS, and that ends up making all the BTS that we have worth 10 times more, it was worth it. Yeah, somebody showed us it was almost break even. At the time that I was talking about it and really paying attention, maybe Talkinator has information on it because I know he was looking at this stuff for a while too. And I don't know, maybe you have easy access to the information, Taco, but the reserve pool the last time I checked, which was a while ago, mind you, it was over 50% of the BitShares that existed. So I don't know if that's still the case, but if it is, then I don't see any reason why we couldn't consider this. Current balance is, okay, so it's 953 million BTS, almost a billion and there's what, 2.6 or 2.7 billion BTS right now in circulation, somewhere around there. So it's a pretty large amount of stake. Now, obviously, if we could do something basic that would bring up the price of BTS to 50 cents, that becomes a heck of a lot more money. And I want to remind everybody, one of the most important things that I think we should make sure that we remind people of is that we have been, one of the biggest problems throughout BitShares has been documentation and making it easy for developers to jump in and start playing around. That has been historically one of the hardest things. And I've talked to many developers. I'm not a developer myself, but I can tell you that every developer I've ever talked to has said this. So with that said, I think it's important to recognize that this is also part of that solid foundation we want, right? I think it's very worth it for us to look into that, because if we have a solid foundation to build on and people who know what they're doing, when they go look to build stuff on BitShares, they see it and they say, wow, they made it so easy for me to build. They're going to go, oh, wow, I have a lot of respect for these people. I would like to build for them because they actually have a clue too, unlike most crypto projects where I have to figure out all these extra things. Somebody's showing t-shirts. Monk stars, huh? And this foundation will support mobile browsers official fuzzy. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Captain Solo, as far as doing nothing with the current UI proposals. I'm not sure if they should or shouldn't. One thing I have learned in crypto is that if people have a certain vision of how things are going and you are wanting to change that, that might not happen. So I'm not necessarily against them opening the opportunities, but I will also say it's sometimes best not to expect those things and just let the community iron out as it will. But that's a good point. Okay, does anybody have anything that they'd like to on this topic, or no loudmouth here who's like, I feel so strongly about this, so strongly I want to speak out? If not, then we just move on, I guess. No issues. Cryptic says, so it's a matter of priorities. Right now, 50% or 250 or 200,000 BTS of a 400,000 daily budget. A daily budget goes to the committee's controlled open market operation fund. In other words, percent of our development budget is being put in BitCNY. Yeah, Captain Solo is saying that he's tried to put them together, but they're different efforts, and that's fine, right? Different efforts oftentimes want to emerge from one place, and I kind of look at it like I'm a farmer and I planted a seed, and two plants kind of grew out of it. I'm lucky enough that that happens, and they both can produce fruits if I water them. That's fine. No need to make them attack each other, and or no need to intentionally try to create that type of stuff, right? And just enjoy the fact that two exist and see which one is tastiest at the end. Bring a food joke in there. And yeah, there are plenty of BTS to pay for these things if there's almost 1 billion of them. But I think one important thing that we make sure of to just keep pounding home is, like Cryptic was saying, if we pay a little bit of money and it makes all the rest of the BTS in the pool worth far more, imagine if BTS ends up being worth, $3 or $4 each. Then we would have the equivalent of development funds of EOS. That's kind of what we're looking at. And how do we get there? That's the question. How do we do it without asking for a bunch of money for something that wasn't quite yet? Right? Instead, we have something, I think, in a lot of ways that is better in some ways with regard to that stuff. So not necessarily that they have to compete, but it's just to make sure that people recognize BitShares isn't alone out in the wilderness without anything to protect itself. Yep, there's a big difference between spending and investment. That's a great way of saying it. Okay, so let's go ahead and then move on to this final topic for today, which is the BitShares infrastructure proposal. And that is for, the title is Global Infrastructure for BitShares by AppAsia.tech. And this is from obviously AppAsia.tech, the witness. There's a link for the discussions, but I'll go through the milestones that Talkinator produced here for us. Upgrading 14 nodes within 5 business days from the activation of the worker proposal, and maintain deployed infrastructures for the BitShares DAC and this worker. Maintain uptime tracking and monitoring through status.appasia.tech on all nodes from this worker with a start date from the date when if the worker gets approved. Provide 80% uptime as average on 6. Continue maintenance of query systems for issue reporting. Move staging 2 production of global public API monitoring for entire BitShares ecosystem through status.bitshares.org. Create public documentation on source builds for various OS deployments, server specifications requirement. and establish a better communication with Xerox, Abit, Clockwork, and Fox on a weekly basis to provide better support page, improve current documentation, and expand support to more OS choices to node owners. Sounds like. Does anybody have anything before I open up my map? Okay, here, I'm going to go ahead and provide a link for everybody so they can open it up in the old BitsharesTalk forums that we have here. And just a reminder for those of you who are here, if you want to be helping me with the BitsharesTalk forums, we're going to be opening up the whale shares. It's going to be on top of whale shares, but you'll be able to use your BitShare account to log into it whenever we get that done. But anybody who's wanting to participate in the construction of this, I'm more than willing to give BitsharesTalk.io to the foundation fund. I'm more than willing to let it be. I simply have just been paying a team of people to help these things for us. So anybody who wants to give anything to this project, the BitsharesTalk.io project, I felt it was important that we use our own technology on our forums. So if you guys agree and you think that this is a reasonable request, that we consider doing that instead of using 1990s forums, please let me know. But while you're here, let's go ahead and check out the worker proposal for the BitShares global infrastructure on the BitsharesTalk.org. So they have a PDF here, and I'll just say here that they've been doing a lot of stuff out of pocket, I know. Let me go ahead and read, actually, because I think they have it here written somewhere. We will provide within 24 hours costs, invoices, the receipts that we have paid up to now, which is up over $14,000, almost $15,000, as proof of contribution and ownership existence of all nodes, and even more. SSL certificates, testing and development servers, current online status of servers, not BitShares API, as half of them require an upgrade we can't advance. That's an interesting statement. And whatever is needed to needed or requested by the stakeholders and respected proxies. So basically what they've been doing is they've been spending a bunch of money out of pocket. Of course, they're witnesses in the BitShares network, so they do get some funding from that. But they are witnesses, and to my knowledge, in the BitShares ecosystem, worker proposal is considered the main way of getting funding for operations and stuff like that. And witness pay is not necessarily supposed to be toward building things, which I am technically against, but we won't get into that too much, other than to say, regardless, they have used quite a bit of funding to help BitShares without being asked to. I know that there are things that they're trying to get done that they just can't afford to get done. But there is a PDF here. I'll go ahead and I'll provide that as well. There you go. That's the flag. That's the global infrastructure for BitShares by App Asia Tech. Here it is. You can actually open up the PDF and it'll talk about the intent. Obviously, they gave the introduction as well. And there are a couple things I want to make clear that they've already helped significantly in BitShares in terms of making sure that they tested to make sure that witnesses were secure. That was actually how I learned about them, was they came in and witnesses weren't doing all the things they needed to do to protect their servers. They just kind of did white hat hacking to see if they could do things against those witnesses. And they found that some of them were not as safe as they should be and as secure as they should be, and kind of were just running on bare bones. So they did a lot on that. Now let's see here. Worker intent. We intend to provide more resources to existing infrastructure and to continue collaboration and maintenance of the infrastructure we already have delivered over the past 8 months. We have made our financial contribution to blockchain, learned and experienced a lot, and finally come to a point where we can't face another invoice or cost of upgrades needed to continue with fully operational infrastructure. We would like to keep the build of existing infrastructure for the period of the next 6 months, upgrade smaller nodes from APT at activate missing DDoS protection, and polish security on the upgraded new nodes. Launch of the infrastructure requires the approval of this proposal, 5 days to complete Volter APT upgrades, reply blockchains where needed, 3 days to provide full support for a full report with status page for this worker, and the acknowledgement from stakeholders that this worker and his public API nodes are for non-commercial use only, because they have limits on the nodes themselves. And then obviously we go into the various nodes that are being run. I won't give you guys a list of them, but I will say it here. It says all public API nodes are protected with premium SSL. All 25 nodes will be limited at all times to 5 connections per IP to prevent commercial and unauthorized use or access. With carefully planned geographical spread on a global level of our public API nodes, we believe that users will have lower latency and better access to servers or services that the Bitshares blockchain, enabling future stability of the ecosystem. And of course, anybody who understands how networking works realizes that this is an important thing to have the infrastructure evenly across the geographical area where those services are going to be provided. That makes it so anybody can access the closest node to them instead of having to go and look, maybe me hooking up with something that's going to be pinging from Germany or from the North Pole. Maybe not the North Pole, but you get my point. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Cryptic. This worker needs approval, and what I have been stunned by and I've loved to see is that they've done a lot of this, even though they didn't really have to. There are a lot of people who are running witnesses, for instance, who don't necessarily provide any of these extra things, right? A lot of witnesses may even just be doing the very bare minimum. As was found before when they came in, there were people who didn't even have DDoS protection, right? Just basic things that if you're a witness for the next financial platform in the world, you want to make sure that you've got these basic things, right? So that was something that I think when they came in and they started showing that to the community and they started bringing it up, I grew to have a lot of respect for them personally. I don't know, obviously things can always change and they might change, but up to this point, I've had no reason to do anything but appreciate what they've done. They were, maybe they're not right now, John Robert. Are they not? I'd be very surprised if they aren't. Oh yeah, I've talked to them behind the scenes about supporting whale shares. Anybody who's holding BitShares, guys, we share dropped 100% on BitShares users, right? If you were one of the people who was here with our brownie for the time whenever Dan wanted me to pass out brownies, I'm making good on that, or I should say my team is helping me make good on that. So brownies are going to be share dropped, or have been share dropped on rather. The whale share token itself has been, as well as the BitShares holders. And we cut out centralized exchanges that do not use BitShares because we didn't feel it was a very good idea to give them a bunch of stake in a change because they're holding customer funds. Yep, I didn't want to promote it too much because we have ideas for promoting it afterwards. I just wanted all the people. I mean, we didn't have to promote it much, right? Because all the people in BitShares get the tokens. They don't have to do anything until afterwards. But we're one of the few groups of people who are going to have the ability to actually consistently reward people for doing initiatives on the chain to bring big people on board. So that's my plan. You guys will see it. But yeah, I think in terms of this worker proposal, I am glad if they got it already voted in. This, I think, is an important one. AppAsia.tech has very much gained my respect. I'm not going to say, this obviously is the Wild West, guys. So always keep your eyes open. Even keep your eyes open for me. I might turn on you. Maybe not turn on you, but I guess the point is I might have been lying to you this entire time, right? Always be careful and have healthy skepticism. You don't have to necessarily be a negative Nancy all the time, but keep in mind that things can change at the drop of a hat, and it's not always one person's fault. You never know what's going to happen. But AppAsia Tech has been amazing up to this point. I would be stunned if they did anything other than amazing things that they've been doing. Official crispy. well stated, Taco. I don't even know where the hell that came from, but it was well done. Official fuzzy and official crispy. The eternal ones. Yeah, I restated that, as you could tell, because it sounded horrible. You never know, man. This is crypto, right? I kind of almost want to make a. Have you guys seen 300? Maybe 300, where the guy kicks the guy in. I always like, and he goes, "This is Sparta." I always think this is crypto. You never know what's going to happen, man. You never know when somebody's going to get kicked in a hole. Yeah, I think it'd be a good meme, actually. But all jokes aside, I think that AppAsia Tech has been amazing. And if you guys are saying, and it's true that they already got voted in, I'll gladly vote toward it. But I'll say this is one of the most easy ones in terms of what I think, because they're already doing a lot of this infrastructure stuff. So we probably want them to continue doing it. But we probably also want to find ways of trying to help decentralize that infrastructure a bit too, away from them over. So I would like to see how they plan on doing that as everything moves forward. But for right now, I won't lie. It is a solid step in the right direction. Crazy. I said I won't lie. You can get out your tokens now. All right, guys. Well, is there anything else that you would like to bring up today? Anything that we haven't covered that we should cover? If not, I have one final thing that I'm just going to bring. Okay, so one of the things that I would like to bring up, since nobody seems like they have questions, other than who are the Persians, what I will say is I would like to bring up the topic of the BitsharesTalk.io forums. I mentioned it a little bit, but now that Whale Shares is about to come out, now that it's been share dropped, everything is moving forward. Now that it's going to have the whale tokens that we've been passing out here and using for amazing initiatives throughout the year. We've passed out hundreds of thousands of tokens and built a lot with it. And it's been made possible because of the cross-chain synergy that we've created. And we did this despite being in an area that was kind of, let's not say benevolent, let's say not benevolent exactly toward our progress. So with that said, we have decided that we wanted a chain that would be a little bit better for our purposes. And rather than do a ninja mine or any of the shit that everybody says they care about decentralization and making everything better and blah, 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 ends up to me seeming 90% of the time to be a buzzword and a bullshit lie. And I'm not trying to complain or cuss or be upset, but I will not lie. If we care about this stuff and we care about it in the way that we say we do, we should show it. And the best way for me to show it is for me to actually say, hey, guys, we have this technology. Let's leverage it. Let's give it to the community. And that's what we've done. So we're going to have this. I'm going to be reaching out to people. We're going to be doing initiatives. We have people who are some of the best people in the BitShares ecosystem in terms of teaching people and onboarding them from the whale shares community, who are going to be there to continue helping with BitShares. But now they're going to be able to be funded without me having to beg for worker proposals that I never did. And even if I fill out something, I'm told it's probably not going to be good enough. I don't if I post it. So rather than do all that, we've gotten a lot of these things done. And I wanted to ask everybody, what do you think I should do in terms of giving the BitsharesTalk forums to the community? At first, I asked Fav if he would like them because he's been modding the BitsharesTalk forums on bitsharestalk.org since the very beginning, or dang close to it anyway. And he's been largely unpaid for his efforts, and I thought that was a great potential person to give them to. But then he said no, and the more I started thinking about it, the more I thought it was probably best that we didn't just give it to one person. So the foundation, I think, is one I could give them to. I don't know how interested they are in having them, but I would like to have the decks built into it eventually and live streaming, and I'd be willing to help fund that myself out of pocket. However, I would need help to do these things, and I do want to know from those people who are part of the community, how would you guys like to see the BitsharesTalk forums controlled? Do you guys have any input on that? Or if you guys have any input on how we can make them better, one thing I want in them is live streaming, right? So I don't have to hold a BitsharesTalk. You guys can hold your own and have them all archived. These are the types of things that I know need to happen because I ran guilds and I know what I'm doing in this area. But a lot of the people who surround me don't necessarily know it. And that means I don't necessarily get funding for it either. So that's why we built what we've done up to this point and shown you what we could do without the worker proposals, because I knew that they were needed. And I figured that once we show people what we have, people will want to jump on board. So if you're one of those people who thinks that it's ridiculous we're still using 1990s forums and thinks that if we off of our asses and change these things, that we're going to have some big perception issues, then please PM me or mention to me in here how you guys would like to see us move forward with that. Otherwise, I'm going to continue holding them and owning them until I figure out what best to do. If the Dex is in there, I was thinking it could be the BitSharesTalk or the BitShares Foundation wallet. I figured that would be something that would directly help BitShares and might even offer the foundation the opportunity to get a bunch of what do you call it? Referrals.
Fuzzy, I'll offer that I'm all for getting us to be using forums that are using the technology that we're built on, right? I think one of the things that I struggle with in a migration is the preservation of the historical information that is currently at bitsharestalk.org. You know, there's lots of valuable posts that are there, the history, the who said them, all of that. And somehow we need to preserve that for history's sake, also all of the search engine optimization that goes to that particular domain name. But you know, it certainly would like to have a way that would make use of our technology going forward and rewarding those content producers and curators in a more effective way.
Well, I'll simply say that if we don't do it, guys, other people are going to. And I don't want to tell you guys I told you so when it happens, but I will. Because I want to make sure that people recognize that when I'm saying these things, I'm not saying them because it's not worth it. I'm saying it because I know how worth it is. I understand where you're coming from. I think we could archive them. My big concern is, we're going to have all these different platforms that are going to be running on blockchain. So we need to make sure that we're up the top tech, and we have that right now, right? We're at the peak right now, or dang close to it. But people are catching up fast, right? Because they're starting to wake up to what we've already known for so long, which is that this tech is sexy. So the question is, how many UX designers like the one like Russell from Canada will say, oh, I'll just build my own BitShares and I'll just make a new interface that way. How do we, these are the types of things I think we need to really consider and make sure that we recognize. Now, I'm definitely for archiving the forums, but I will say on the other side, I think that being able to reward people things that they talk about on the forums, that is just something we've needed since the beginning. So I hope that we can leverage that as well. Does anybody have any ideas on how we could archive the old BitsharesTalk forums?
I know it's been investigated in the past, and I'm sure there's forum posts that talk about it, but I don't recall what the outcome was.
Yeah, I think it's important that we do that too, because you're right. Like, I know that I've been part of some of those discussions that I would not want to lose. And there's a lot of people even, I think that it's important even to have a historical record. The people who've been there on those forums for all this time since the beginning. I think that's also another important thing to keep. I'll definitely keep that in mind as I move forward with my intents on this. But I guys know if you have similar intents and you want to help make this done right, I really don't have any intention of keeping or owning or even necessarily making money off of these if the community wants to leverage it and work with me. If not, I'll try to take it to the degree of making money off them, but I don't think I would prefer not to do that. I'd prefer to really just help the community and get this stuff done so we know that it's there.
You guys want to have some history regarding all the old entries of the talks. You think it could be in a blockchain or something? Because eventually, if we are going to see like Facebook on a blockchain, people want to like not leave all their data on Facebook and want to be on a new chain with all their history. Actually, maybe that's the idea.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but you're going to need to speak up, buddy. I can't hear you.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Then if it's still the main talk, then I will keep it for the after party.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Just whenever you mention it, if you can speak up, because you're really low and whenever you're not trying to. Okay, so let's go ahead and then I think we're good on that. I just wanted to let everybody know about it. I don't always talk about it, but I want to make it clear to everybody that these things are here. These are things that if you don't do them, they'll get done by someone else, and we can't guarantee they're going to be done with our intent and our end goals in mind. The one way we do guarantee that is by doing it ourselves. So anybody who wants to help me with this, reach out to me. I will gladly accept help in any way, shape, or form. We've already got the forums. We've already got whale shares. I can do it on my own. My team has been doing it with me this entire time, but we can always use help to make it as good as it can be. So if anybody's listening to this and cares, you can donate, you can put time and effort into it, anything you want to do. I really want to open this up for the community. So BitShares has what I believe it deserved from the very beginning, which is the opportunity to have what ended up becoming called smart media tokens, but something like that that works with BitShares. And I think it's a shame that the synergy wasn't created between another platform and BitShares, but that's fine because the one thing that I can control is we have a team that helped make sure that it did happen that way. So if you guys care about this stuff and you appreciate what we're doing, please make sure to consider participating in those initiatives and reach out to me if you like the idea of BitsharesTalk Forums using our tech. which I think is absolutely obvious what we do with that. But with that said, thank you guys very much. See you next week. Of course, if you want to join for the EOS Talk tonight, we do have the EOS Talk that will be live streaming tonight on the Beyond Bitcoin Network as well. You can go to the EOSTalk Forums to see that. And of course, everybody who's going to be part of the Whale Shares community, we welcome you. It's going to be a very interesting ride, and I look forward to seeing what your whale coins and help us develop and get share dropped on Whale Shares and BitShares. And have a good one. We'll see you guys next week.